Well, good morning. I want to take a moment to recognize the Tucker family. Is Sandy even in here? She stepped out. Andy and Sandy, Eli, when he was 13 years old, they moved from Michigan and started attending our church. And it's been a dozen years, and God is moving them to Sarasota. If you don't know them, Andy is one of our deacons, and Sandy is our chaos coordinator. My only problem with her is she showed up to a meeting one time that says, I'm in a meeting that should have been an email mug in her hand. And so that was the only trouble I ever had with your wife. And I think I'll have trouble announcing that y'all are leaving and moving. But you bless us so much, not just you, but your family, your whole family. Your kids, the kids come in every Sunday morning, first thing, and reset all of the cards and offering envelopes and pins in each chair. And they're like little bees, just going from flower to flower to flower. And you've trained up Eli, and we're keeping him. But God bless you guys. We love you so much, and we're going to miss you. And we just pray God's blessing upon you guys down there. It's an amazing area, and I'm a little jealous of your fishing opportunities that you'll have. But it is Father's Day today, and that's either a good thing or a bad thing for a lot of us. A very complicated relationship sometimes with fathers and their kids. And the message for today is out of Genesis chapter 26, and we're dealing with a struggle of fatherhood. Genesis 27, I'm sorry, a struggle of fatherhood in the life of Isaac. And we were gone last week on vacation, and with vacation comes a lot of travel, and with travel comes a lot of movies. And so while you're there, sitting for long periods of time, you watch Marvel movies. And one of the things I picked up on, one of the things I noticed was that our modern context really struggles with the concept of story. We all the movies now have happily ever after tacked on to the end. Everything seems to turn out really rosy, and everything seems to turn out good at the end. And there's been a move in in some churches, in the liberal churches, to unhitch the Old Testament from the New Testament, because the stories are a little bit too graphic and a little bit too real. And the people in the Bible, in the Old Testament, their lives are not necessarily ones that we should even pattern our lives after. But the truth of the matter is the Bible is real stories about real people who sometimes were really ungodly. And Isaac is no exception to that. In fact, Isaac is really given a short stint in the Bible. If you look at Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Isaac is just like a little ampersand in between Abraham and Jacob. Maybe two stories, last week's story and this week's story, of the life of Isaac, and that's all we get from him, because he really wasn't that great a guy. Now, he was a believer, he was a person of faith, but he lived a lifestyle that we would not raise up to say, hey, I would like you to be this guy. So today's sermon is not going to have a happy ending, and it's not going to have that resolution of, hey, this worked out. I will remind you, though, that John Wayne died in 14 of his movies, right? And so sometimes the good guy dies, and sometimes bad things happen. But what's redemptive about the story is how we can, even in bad news, that we can learn some lessons, and that the number one lesson is that the only redemption, the only perfect person is Jesus Christ. And he is the one that redeems our story, no matter how bad it is. And so if you're here and you have a strained relationship with your father, and it's Father's Day, and you really don't want to hear a message about fathers, I think, today will be okay for you, because Jacob had a really bad dad too. And so we can learn from that, and we can grow in our walk because of of this story. And maybe you have a great relationship with your dad. I sat and watched my dad's last Sunday school lesson this morning that he taught from a hospice. You know, my dad was amazing. And I really thoroughly had a great childhood because I had a good dad, and I miss him terribly. And I think if you're here like that this will inspire you to be better at what you do, and maybe some of those rough edges, some of those difficult times, some of those personal things that you get involved in, maybe would rub some of that a little bit smoother in your life as well. And so this is one of those stories that we're probably over familiar with in Sunday school life. If you grew up in church, you've probably heard it all before, but it's necessary for us to hear it again. And so if you'll stand with me in honor of God's word, we're going to be in Genesis 27, beginning in verse 1. It says, "Now it came to pass, when Isaac was old and his eyes were so dim that he could not see, that he called Esau his older son and said to him, 'My son.' And he answered him, 'Here I am.' Then he said, 'Behold, now I am old. I do not know the day of my death. Now therefore, please take your weapons, your quiver, and your bow, and go out to the field and hunt game for me. And make me savory food, such as I love, and bring it to me that I may eat, that my soul may bless you before I die.' Now Rebekah was listening when Isaac spoke to Esau his son. And Esau went to the field to hunt game and to bring it. So Rebekah spoke to Jacob her son, saying, 'Indeed, I heard your father speaking to Esau your brother, saying, Bring me game and make savory food for me, that I may eat it and bless you in the presence of the Lord before my death. Now therefore, my son, obey my voice according to what I command you. Go to the flock and bring me from there 2 choice kids of the goats, and I will make savory food from them for your father, such as he loves. Then you shall take it to your father, that he may eat it, and that he may bless you before his death." You may be seated. What we're going to see today is a dysfunctional family. The trick of that phrase is that every family has dysfunction. You hear about it and you're like, well, I grew up in a dysfunctional family as some kind of excuse. And the reality is, so did everybody else, because all have sinned and fallen short, right? Every one of us comes from a dysfunctional family. And so we come and we look at this dysfunctional family, and I want you to see a little bit of the dysfunction that's going on here. First of all, is that you had a desirous father, a father who's led by his desires. There are 9 personal pronouns in the first 4 verses. Isaac had an I problem. So I want this, and I want this, and and go and get me this. He was blind in more ways than one. His eyes were closed to the fact that he had a family, to provide for, and he's consumed with self. He's consumed with pleasing himself in this passage. Listen, I don't know when I'm going to die, but go and make me some savory meat so that I can eat it, and then I can bless you. Did he need to eat before he pronounced a blessing upon his son? Did he need to go and have a big feast? It didn't seem like it was necessary. In order to pray a blessing over your child, you don't necessarily need to have a big feast, first of all, but that was Isaac. Isaac had that eye problem, and he had that difficulty of just himself. And now, in other passages, Isaac is a picture of the Messiah. So we take Abraham up on the mountain, and there's Isaac laid out on the wood, on the altar, and Isaac is a picture of Christ. But everybody in this story is seeking their own way. Everybody in this passage that we're looking at today, and this, again, I'm going to tell you, this is not a nice story. This is not a happy ending story. It's the story of a bunch of selfish people. A bunch of people who are wanting to have their own needs met. It's a good example of how a Christian home, a home full of believers, can get as corrupt as a home full of unbelievers. Isaac was concerned for himself, and we see his carnality in the fact that just like Esau, who would sell his birthright for a pot of stew, Isaac lets flesh get in the way. Look at verse 27. It says, in chapter 25, verse 27, it says, the boys grew. This is a couple chapters earlier. The boys grew, and Esau was a skillful hunter, a man of the field, but Jacob was a mild man, dwelling in tents. And Isaac loved Esau. Why? Because he ate of his game, but Rebekah loved Jacob. Here is a problem in this house. This dysfunction arose because each of the parents had a favorite child. Each of them had a favorite kid. And the reason that Esau had a favorite, put the verse back up there just for a second. Esau had a favorite. Why? Because. It wasn't because he was more godly than anyone else. It wasn't because he was caring and kind. Esau loved, or Isaac loved Esau because of what he got out of it. You want a dysfunctional family, Dad? Talking to you fathers in the room. You start treating your kids with some kind of special treatment because of what you can get out of them. Start seeing them as a commodity, seeing them as something that would please you. And Rebekah was no different. She loved Jacob for very similar reasons. He was the one who stayed around the house. He was the one who maybe helped at home. And the bottom line is this, that fathers are not put in the home to make withdrawals, but to make deposits. Like, your family does not exist for you. You exist for your family. Be a man. Stand up. Take care. You take the sacrifice. You take the hit. Your kids are not your servants. Kids, man, you can get kids to do anything, right? Isn't that fun? It's uncomfortable in this room right now. You guys feel the tension? You can get your kids to do anything as a dad. Dad, your role is minister. Your role is servant. Your role is shepherd. You're there to make deposits, not withdrawals. But Isaac loved his son because, well, his son could go out and hunt. His son could bring back steaks. And he likes steaks. He loved that savory food. He began to show favoritism. It's a very terrible thing. They had a desirous father. They had a devious mother. Rebekah here makes a decision to, well, first of all, she's eavesdropping, right? She's listening in. This family didn't communicate well either. The discussions aren't happening. They didn't have a plan put in place. And so she's listening in to a conversation going on between Isaac and Esau, and she's kind of coming up with a plan. And if you remember back from when Abraham sent his servant to go and get Rebekah, Rebekah was very resourceful. She was a hardworking. That's how she won the job of being Isaac's wife, right? Is she was one who got water for the camels. It's a very, very beautiful picture of how resourceful she was. But resourceful people can get into a little bit of a deviation of that too, right? They can use their resourcefulness to make things happen. And that's what Rebekah did. She began to make things happen. She began to say, okay, now this is going to go this way, and I know that it needs to go this way, and I want it to go this way. I want Isaac to be the one who is the blessed one, the one who is the progenitor of the Messiah. I want Isaac, who has the birthright, to get the blessing. So she begins to work. I said Isaac, I meant Jacob. I want Jacob to get this blessing, not Esau. And so she begins to work her magic. She begins to scheme and to plan and to coordinate things. And I don't know that some of it was a little bit of a resentment Because when this passage says that Isaac now loved, that savory meat that he loved, that's the same word that this Bible describes that how he used to love Rebekah. In fact, every time that word was used in the Hebrew, up until this point, it always referred to a person. Isaac loved Rebekah. Isaac loved Esau. Rebekah loved Jacob. And now we get to this horrible verse. In verse 4 it says that Isaac loved food. This family was dysfunctional, right? They had gone from loving people, from loving each other, to loving things and loving themselves. And now, every time later, whenever this verse, this word that's translated love in the King James, New King James Version, it's translated like in the NIV. Whenever that word shows up again, when it refers to things and not people, it's always in a negative things. Those who love warfare. It's a negative kind of like attachment. The reality is that Rebekah made a decision, and what motivated that may have been that the way her husband loved food more than her. It may have been the fact that she loved Jacob more than Esau. It may have been the fact that she wanted to manipulate things to go her way. So she schemes a way of getting the blessing for her favorite. And verse 11, let's pick that up. It says, Jacob said to Rebekah, his mother, "Look, Esau, my brother, is a hairy man, and I'm a smooth-skinned man." I had the same conversation with my brother today, that he's the hairy one, and I'm the smooth one. It wasn't very smooth of me to say it, but he said, verse 12, he says, "Perhaps my father will feel me, and I shall seem to be a deceiver to him, and I shall be a curse on myself and not a blessing." But his mother said to him, "Let your curse be on me, my son, and only obey my voice, and go and get them for me." And he went and got them and brought them to his mother, and his mother made savory food, such as his father loved. And Rebekah took the choice clothes of her elder son Esau, which were with her in the house, and put them on Jacob, her younger son. And she put the skins of the kids of the goats on his hands and on the smooth part of his neck. Then she gave the savory food and the bread which she had prepared into the hands of her son Jacob. So we look at Rebekah, and she's got this elaborate plan, right? She is deceiving, and she is kicking things up a notch. And it's amazing to me how some people are more clever in their deceit than they would be in just if they had just done it the right way the first time, right? And that's a sign of dysfunction in the family. The studies have shown that people who grow up, adults who grow up in dysfunctional families, will lie even when they don't have to. Even when it's easier than telling the truth, that it becomes a pattern in our lives to just tell the lie, just to say what people want to hear. That lying becomes very easy for them. And the reality is, it wasn't easy for Jacob to lie at the beginning. He was kind of trained to do so by his mom. Right? He's like, "Well, I don't know about this. It sounds like a really dangerous thing. Look, Esau is hairy and I'm not. I don't know if this plan is going to work out, Mom." And she pressures him and she encourages him, and he says, "Perhaps my father will feel me." And then later he says, "Well, what if he curses me instead?" Right? He's not so on board with this plan. His mom is deceptively pushing and deviously pushing for him to do that, and it's going to lead to great problems in their lives. And so we see this dysfunctional family, and we see it. They have a desirous father, a dad who just wants to please himself, and everybody is all about me. And we have a mom who's going to scheme and use trickery and deceit to get things to go her way. And so we have this kind of dysfunction. And the same kind of dysfunction can exist in our families even today. And at some level, perhaps because we allow it to in those, maybe not so much, but maybe in the little things we can begin to manipulate and stop trusting God. I believe wholeheartedly, that God could have brought these things about even if Esau hadn't, or even if Isaac hadn't lived the way he did, and even if Rebekah hadn't lived the way she did, that God could have still brought about this blessing, even if, because he did it in spite of them, didn't he? Look at verse 18. It says, so he went into his father, and he said, my father. And he said, here I am. Who are you, my son? And Jacob said to his father, I am Esau, your firstborn. I have done just as you told me. Please arise, sit, and eat of my game, that your soul may bless me. But Isaac said to his son, how is it that you have found it so quickly, my son? And he said, because the Lord your God brought it to me. Then Isaac said to Jacob, please come near that I may feel you, my son, whether you are really my son Esau or not. So Jacob went near to Isaac his father, and he felt him, and said, the voice is Jacob's voice, but the hands are the hands of Esau. And he did not recognize him, because the hands were hairy like his brother Esau's hands, so he blessed him. Then he said, are you really my son Esau? And he said, I am. He said, bring it near me, and I will eat of my son's game, so that my soul may bless you. So he brought it near him, and he ate, and he brought him wine, and he drank. Then his father Isaac said to him, come near now and kiss me, my son. And he came near and kissed him, and smelled the smell of his clothing, and blessed him, and said, surely the smell of my son is like the smell of a field, which the Lord has blessed. Therefore may God give you of the dew of heaven, of the fatness of the earth, and plenty of grain and wine. Let peoples serve you, and nations bow down to you. Be master over your brethren, and let your mother's sons bow down to you. Cursed be everyone who curses you, and blessed be those who bless you. There is a crazy thing that happens when deceit comes into the family, and I don't want us to live that way. I want us to avoid these same pitfalls. And so let's look at this passage. Let's break down this and let's really dig into the deceitfulness of the heart. The Bible says that our heart is deceitful above all things and desperately wicked. Who can know it? Not you can't even know your own heart. Your heart will lie to you. And so this deception of the heart is something that we've got to deal with in our lives if we're going to avoid the dysfunction that can come. And the first one there is that I want us to focus in on and drill down on is this idea of favoritism. A lady by the name of Francine Klagsburn, in her 1992 book called Mixed Feelings, reported that 84% of people surveyed said that one or both of their parents showed favoritism. 84% said that one or both of their parents showed favoritism as they were growing up. I found that astounding. Would you guys feel that same way, perhaps? I had to do an experiment myself, so I texted both of my kids, and I said, how is Dad's favorite doing today? One of them said, good, and the other one said, I don't know, I'll have to ask her. So I guess that would fall into the 84%, maybe 85%. And it's hard, right? It's hard not to show favoritism to certain kids. And even then, of my siblings would always say that I was my parents' favorite, or my mom's favorite at least, right? It's just like the kids say that. Whose favorite are you? Are you their favorite or their favorite? Their favorite. Wow. The in-laws, huh? That's good. If you can work it. I'd like to recognize my in-laws are here today. glad you're here. But it's favoritism is something that can destroy a family. Now, we understand that the difficulty is that some kids are difficult and some kids are easy. Some are compliant and some are strong-willed. We understand that that some, because they require more attention, may get the view that they are the favorite, but they just need more help and they need more they need more support than others might need. But the problem here was that Esau was loved because of what he could provide for his dad. Esau, in verse 5, it was a crazy thing. I don't know if you picked up on it while we were reading, but verse 5 said that Isaac spoke to Esau, his son, and then Rebekah went and talked to Jacob, her son. Did you catch that as we were reading? It was really known who belonged to who, and who was the favorite of who. And even in verse 6 and 17, Isaac referred to the fake Esau, Jacob, as my son. And in verse 20, again, it just kind of came over and over and over again. In verse 21, he says, my very son. My special kid, my precious. And the reality is that we got to be really careful to love our kids, and love is the attitude of self-sacrifice to meet the needs of the cherished person. Love is not about how we can serve ourselves. We don't sell our love. We don't trade our love. We don't use our love. We don't dangle our love as bait to get them to do, if you do this, I will love you. That love is an attitude. It's an attitude of self-sacrifice. And we should, Jesus says, love your enemies, right? We should love all of our children regardless. And sometimes some of them require more love because they are going through a time. And right now, they need more attention and they need more love because they're in this difficult event going on in their life, or this difficult season. But the reality is that love is one thing that is boundless. And so it should not be parsed out. It should not be divided. It should not be split out and taken away from one in order to show another. But this favoritism really, what it typifies is a strange sort of selfishness. What it reveals more about us than, in this passage, it reveals more about us than it does to the child. Sadly for Rebekah, this favoritism is going to lead to deception, and that deception is going to lead to loss. Look at chapter 27, verse 45. This is the end of the story. And I'm fast-forwarding here because I want you to see a kind of a result that takes place as a result of favoritism. And so the deception goes on. Jacob wins the blessing. Esau is ready to kill him. Like literally ready to kill him. And Rebekah sends Isaac away. And then she says this phrase, I will send you away and I will bring you from there. And then here's this last phrase. Why should I be bereaved also of you both in one day? What came as a result of favoritism of Rebekah was that she lost both. She was willing to sacrifice Esau, her firstborn. She was willing to trick him. She was willing to deceive her husband so that Jacob could get the blessing. She was willing to say, you know what, Esau's good. I don't care about him. He can do his own thing. He's a skillful hunter. He'll be fine. I'm willing to break relationship with him so that Jacob can have the blessing. But what happened to Rebekah was that she lost a relationship with both kids. And that's what happens in families when we start to show favoritism. Is usually we pour all of our love on a little Fauntleroy, hey, let's kind of, he's my favorite, he likes to snuggle, he's my best little boy, and the other kids, I really don't care about them. And then little Fauntleroy grows up and he's spoiled brat. And what you think you are going to hold on to, you actually, not only in driving the others away, you actually lose both. And that's what happens with this kind of dysfunctional family where we divide our love and we don't love in equity. We really just love ourselves and we love them for what they can give us and what we can get out of them. And all of a sudden, here's Rebecca and she's lost everything. Favoritism is a dangerous thing, and it leads. This favoritism leads to falsehood. There are 5 lies here that Jacob tells his father. It's me, Dad. Doesn't sound like you. No, it's really me. Doesn't feel like you. Well, I guess it feels like you. I guess it smells like you. Little lies, little lies, little lies, little lies. Big problem. Dishonesty sneaks in there, right? Jacob was emboldened in his lies. And he starts off, remember earlier I said he was not a good liar. He wasn't really proficient in it. Mom kind of encouraged him towards that. Okay, go lie to your dad. So don't tell Dad moment, right? We're going to do this, but don't let Dad know we did this. And now go lie to your dad. And he's like, well, I don't know. He may catch me in this lie, and then I'll get cursed. But man, by the time Jacob steps in and starts telling these lies, he's good at it. He finds his gifting. Right? He doesn't bat an eye. He doesn't break a sweat. His voice doesn't quiver. He moves right in there and begins lying to his dad, and man, it is just something to watch him work. And verse 41, it says, as a result of that, Esau hated Jacob because of the blessing with which his father blessed him. And Esau said in his heart, the days of mourning for my father are at hand. Then I will kill my brother Jacob. And the words of Esau, her older son, were told to Rebekah. So she sent and called Jacob, her younger son, and said to him, surely your brother Esau comforts himself concerning you by intending to kill you. Now therefore, my son, obey my voice. Arise, flee to my brother Laban in Haran, and stay with him a few days until your brother's fury turns away. Until your brother's anger turns away from you, and he forgets what you have done to him. Then I will send and bring you from there. Why should I be bereaved also of you both in one day? I want to read you a quote. It says, favoritism leads to falsehood. Falsehood leads to fear. And fear leads to suffering. That's by Not Yoda. Fear leads to hate. Hate leads to suffering, right? But where does that all come from? It came from favoritism. It came from lies. And it came from falsehoods. And then now all of a sudden we're dealing with a fear situation. You've got to run. Notice how now Rebekah puts it on Jacob, what you've done to him. He's going to kill you for what you've done to him. You better run. And Jacob runs away. Now he's dealing with fear. And he's got that flight mode going on, right? He's running. And where's he running? It's not going to be a good place. We make really bad decisions based on fear. Make really bad decisions when we are led by fear. And fear is going to cause Jacob to spend 20 years in exile. This desire for the blessing, this deceit for the blessing is going to lead to a broken family. And it's going to lead to 20 years off in service to Laban. And Laban is going to be a better schemer and a better liar and a better deceiver than Jacob ever thought of. You're going to go and you're going to work. Fear causes us to make a lot of bad moves, but God takes these bad moves and these selfish desires, and like we said at the beginning, God's a God of redemption. I want to rewind, and I want us to go back to the middle of this story and see a picture of the gospel, because I really think that's where the redemption is found for us. There's no happy ending at the end of the story. The only happy ending here is that God says, you know, here's a bunch of selfish people seeking themselves and lying to each other and destroying a family. And God uses that as a picture of Israel rejecting their Messiah. And there's the only redemption in this story is that God takes it, this terrible family, and makes it a picture of how Israel would treat Jesus. Look at verse 30. It says, it happened that as soon as Isaac had finished blessing Jacob, and Jacob had scarcely gone out from the presence of Isaac his father, that Esau his brother came in from his hunting. He had also made savory food and brought it to his father, and said to his father, let my father arise and eat of his son's game, that your soul may bless me. And his father Isaac said to him, who are you? So he said, I'm your son, your firstborn Esau. And then Isaac trembled exceedingly and said, who? Where is the one who hunted game and brought it to me? I ate all of it before you came, and I have blessed him, and indeed he shall be blessed. And when Esau heard the words of his father, he cried with an exceedingly great and bitter cry, and said to his father, bless me also, me also, my father. But he said, your brother came with deceit and has taken away your blessing. And Esau said, is he not rightly named Jacob? For he has supplanted me these 2 times. He took away my birthright, and now, look, he has taken away my blessing. And he said, have you not reserved a blessing for me? Then Isaac answered and said to him, said to Esau, indeed, I have made him your master, and all his brethren I have given to him as servants. With grain and wine I have sustained him. What shall I now do for you, my son? And Esau said to his father, have you only one blessing, my father? Bless me also, O my father. And Esau lifted up his voice and wept. Then Isaac his father answered and said to him, behold, your dwelling shall be of the fatness of the earth and of the dew of heaven from above. But by your sword you shall live, and you shall serve your brother, and it shall come to pass when you become restless that you shall break his yoke from your neck. I want you to see here that what really the picture that God draws out from this passage is a display of the gospel. That Esau despised his birthright. Esau made a decision that set these things into motion, and it was the despising of his birthright, but that despising of his birthright cost him the disqualification of his blessing. It's like, okay, Jacob sold 2 things from me. Not only did he trick me out of the birthright with the lentil stew in chapter 25, but now he's stealing the blessing that comes along with it. I want you to understand today that in the gospel, there is a close relationship with our acceptance of the birthright and our reception of the blessing. That how Jacob came out ahead is that he saw value in the Messiah. He saw value in the birthright, and as a result of that, he was blessed. That what God is showing here is that the nation of Israel is going to reject their birthright. That they are God's chosen people. That God chose them. God rescued them, redeemed them from Egypt. We call them that today. But when the Messiah came, what did they do? They rejected that. And as a result of rejecting their birthright, they've not received their blessing. And this is a picture of the gospel. This is a picture of the fact that Jesus came. That's why Esau said, is he not rightly named, for he supplanted me these 2 times. Here's Esau, and he's weeping. Reminds us of chapter 25 when he's weeping bitterly over the loss of the birthright. What does he want? He wants the blessing. He's lost out. Why? Because he despised it. Folks, your reception of the gospel of Jesus Christ, your reception of the Messiah, becoming a child of God, will ultimately determine whether or not you receive the blessing of God. You reject Jesus, God rejects you. There are people who are like, well, I really want God to bless me. Well, what have you done with His Son? What have you done with His Son? Have you received His Son? The picture here is that Israel as a nation is going to reject their king. They're going to do their own thing. Are they God's chosen people? God chose them. God wants to bless them. But the vast majority of them have rejected their Messiah. And as a result of that, they will not be part of God's blessing. It's going to go to not those who come to God by works, but those who come to God by faith. And so here's Esau, and Esau went out and did all the work. He went out and did all the hunts, and he went out and drug that game back to the house, and he cleaned the animal, and he chopped it and butchered it and made steaks, and he cooked it on the grill and cooked it over the fire. He did all the work, and he comes in and he gets nothing for it. We are not saved by works. Esau is coming, and he's like, okay, I don't have the birthright, but I still want the blessing. And it doesn't work that way. And even though this is a terrible story about a terrible family making terrible decisions, what God's showing us is that our salvation comes by grace. It doesn't come by works. And although the nation of Israel wants the blessings of God, they don't receive the Messiah of God. The true blessing of God is Jesus Christ. Now, I want you to see, because the wording was really close, and I wanted to point out the difference in the blessing from Esau's blessing to Jacob's blessing. It says, therefore, in verse 28, it shows Jacob's blessing, the first one, the best blessing. It says, therefore, may God give you of the dew of the heavens, of the fatness of the earth. And then for Esau's blessing, it says, behold, your dwelling shall be of the fatness of the earth and of the dew of heaven from above. That it is, one had the possession of it. You'll get to live there. You'll get to live in the blessing. You'll get to enjoy the blessing. But for Jacob, it was God's going to give you the blessing. One had possession. The other had the promise. Esau had to settle for just dwelling in the promised land that belonged to his brother Jacob. The question for us today is, will we just want God's blessing, or will we want God? Isaac's problem was, I just love my family for what my family can do for me. The question for us is, do you love your father for what he can do for you, or do you love your father? Let's bow our heads. Maybe you're here today and you've never accepted that your Father loves you so much that He sent Jesus Christ to die on the cross for you. Your Heavenly Father loved you so much that He sent His only begotten Son for you. Maybe you've treated God like a vending machine, pushing buttons to get stuff. Today would be a good day to bow your heart to Him and say, God, I love you. Not for what you've given me, but I love you for you. If you've never accepted that Jesus is your Messiah, then you need that birthright. You need to be a child of God. You bow your heart and say, God, I acknowledge that I'm a sinner. I believe that Jesus died on the cross for me. Maybe you're here today and there's some dysfunction in your life because of, well, some favorite things. Some savory things. Maybe you love things more than people. Maybe there's some broken relationships that need to be mended. Maybe you've wronged somebody. Maybe you've lied. Maybe today's a day to make a phone call, send a text, to begin the process of restoration. Let's pray. Lord, we love you, and we love the fact that the Old Testament is truth. Lord, that it's not some polished story